Greetings, friends. David J. Coon with Qigong Awareness, uh, author of Qigong for Beginners, Your Path to Greater Health and Vitality. So, challenging times, end times, times of who knows what exactly, what to do. Here's my best advice. Practice cultivating your own inner peace. That's not easy to do. It takes practice and it takes patience and it takes years. But here's the thing. Let's go back for a moment in time in terms of my life and my story anyway. And back when I was 15 or something and wrestling with spinal disease and wrestling with the struggles of adolescence and wrestling with what is life going to look like, 5 years down the road, is the world going to end? Because back then we had crises also, and whether it was nuclear war or whatever was going on, the threat of, there's always some kind of threat, seemingly, when you look at the world and the struggles of human suffering, there's always some seeming outward threat, right? Plus, there was threat seemingly within my own family and people suffering from pain and disease and emotional disease and alcoholism and, the kids in my high school struggling with all the different things that they were struggling with. Again, we call it the human condition. So this isn't really a new problem. Yes, I know it's new. We call it the pandemic. There's a coronavirus. Should we get the vaccine? Should we not get the vaccine? All these kinds of seemingly big questions, and they are on the level that they are. But here's the one constant in your life. The one constant in your life is actually you. Not that you're necessarily constant. You may be up and down, but that's still a constant. It's still you. You go with you wherever you go. So when I walked into my first martial arts school, and I'd already been learning things about Qigong, things about traditional Chinese medicine, but I walked into my first martial art school with a master at 18 years old. I think I was just about to turn 18. And I knew right away, I said, that's what I want to be when I grow up. The level of mastery, the level of confidence, the level of clarity, the level of energy, the level of just mastery that this particular master had. And in fact, there were two of them at the school. And I was just wowed by it. And I knew right away, I felt like something was like rebirthed inside of me, as if, I don't know, it was somehow coming home. And entering into the school atmosphere, entering into the dojo, entering into those kinds of practices, it's one of the things about Qigong and martial art and meditation and practices of mindfulness and so on. They are practices, practices, practices. There's always these practices. There's always another Qigong practice. There's always another martial art movement. There's always another something to dedicate myself to. And one of the things that I love about that, I love so many things about that, but one of the things is that when you practice a set of movements, a form, a sequence, something, and you're practicing your breathing and you're practicing sort of coming into your body and coming back to yourself, you can't focus on everything that's going on in the world, all this craziness, all this chaos. And if you are a channel flipper and you like to flip from one channel to another on YouTube or whatever it is, and you're watching all of these different people arguing and presenting their positions and so on and so forth, this can really disturb you on a lot of levels. And even if you're not watching it and you're just sort of around your family and watching your family and being challenged by maybe one person wants to get the vaccine, another person doesn't want to get the vaccine. Everybody has strong opinions. Everybody's trying to push their opinions on everybody else as if they're right and so on. And, we could talk about a lot of that, but I'm not interested. So, um, I'm here to talk to you about what do you have some say in. So again, going back to when I was 15, let's say, and then starting some of these practices and then going into 18 and becoming even more involved in these practices. Um, Life is still here. I'm still living. I'm still here. I'm still observing. The world has not ended. And I'm still faced with challenges of living life. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I have a business. Um, I have to pay rent or however you want to say it, right? I have to do all of those kinds of things. And without skills, without energy, without practices, without some kind of mastery over myself to not freak out when I have to stand in line too long at the bank, or when something in my life is not working out the way that I want it to be, or there's not enough money on that day to accomplish something that I want to accomplish, or I have half the energy I'd like to have to accomplish this task that I'd like to accomplish, or it's taking me longer to heal myself than I would like to heal from getting a cold, or whatever the case may be. Having a practice of discipline, having a practice that you can carry with you, that you can master over time, will influence your life tremendously. And if you're like me and you believe that it's possible, because this is an idea that for some reason I just was born with, I sort of had this idea early on in my life that whatever state of mind we're in, we're taking it with us when we depart from here. So it became a very important idea for me that when I leave this place called Earth and the Earth plane and I pass from this particular incarnation, that I wanted to leave with a clear conscience, that I wanted to leave with a clear consciousness, that I wanted to leave with peace in my heart, and that I wanted to discover that before I left here. And interestingly enough, in seeking that, in seeking peace first, I was able to heal my body of this spinal disease that the doctors said would cripple me. I was able to heal myself of things that in many ways seemed impossible to heal. And who has time for these practices of inner peace? I mean, who really has time? I mean, we're so busy in chaos. We're so busy with our chaotic jobs or our chaotic relationships or our chaos of chasing whatever it is that we think we need to survive. This is the problem for so many people. It's not like I'm sitting on all kinds of money and resources. I mean, I started out almost 40 years ago and I didn't have money to go to school. I had to take loans to get my degrees. I had to take out loans to run my business. I had to take chances. I had to take risks. I had to envision and I had to pray and all of these kinds of things, right? But I had to show up each day. I mean, this is huge. I had to show up each day. I had to show up to my commitments and I had to follow through, not just one day or 2 days, but years. And in order to do that, okay, if you look at your life and you realize your life is a marathon, like until you find out it's not and you die tomorrow or something, right? Okay, hopefully not, okay, but if you were to pass tomorrow, okay, like you find out, okay, then obviously that's not going to work. But overall, I recommend think of your life as a marathon. It's a long distance. You've got a lot of time to sort it out, figure it out, have your cake and eat it too. And there's a teaching, goes way back to Jesus, goes way back to the Buddha. And the teaching said, seek not outside yourself, right? In my opinion, my humble opinion, but an opinion that has some clarity and some experience, take it for what it's worth. I think especially in modern times, I don't know, maybe even back then, but I would teach this teaching and I would say, seek not outside yourself first. In other words, firstly, don't seek outside yourself. Tomorrow, go seek outside yourself, go try and find a job. Tomorrow, seek outside yourself and go try and, you know, heal your body. Go find a healer, a practitioner, a Qigong practice that you can do to heal your body. But today, now, actually practice doing nothing, so to speak. Practice a meditation practice that is like doing nothing. Practice a seated meditation, a standing meditation. Practice coming back to your breath. Practice going to the forest and cleansing and clearing your mind before you go look for your job. And then when you're on your way and you're going and looking for your job, repeat some of the same prayers, some of the same mantras, some of the same thoughts and ideas that you had, that you were praying when you were in the forest. And now your life is coming together. When I was at a critical time in my life at about 25 years old, I still had the spinal disease. And the doctors were saying that my spine and my body and so on would be crippled in the next 5 years. My spine was starting to crush my lungs and all this other kind of stuff. And they said my spine looked like I was 85 years old and all of that. So you got to imagine there's a lot of stress going on with that, a lot of emotional stress, a lot of financial stress, everything, right? So there I am in the middle of all of that, and I go out to the sky, and I go out there at 3 o'clock in the morning. I decided I'm not going to just go to bed at a normal time, get up at a normal time. I got to break outside the box. I'm going to go outside into the quiet. I'm going to go out into the forest, and I did that night after night. And I went out there one night, and I remember saying some very specific intentions and prayers and put it out into the universe. And I kind of said, like, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? With whom would you have me speak? And I kept repeating that kind of idea, you know. And it was like, where? And at that time in my life, the message came back so loud and clear. Literally over the next few weeks, it was like people, just strangers, just coming up to me and asking me, hey, have you ever been to Colorado? Have you ever been to Boulder? Have you ever been to Denver? And at the time in my life, I was living in Connecticut, and those visions, those answers to my prayers, those directions led me to Boulder, Colorado, led me to Denver, Colorado, where I had a private practice and a Qigong practice, and I did shamanic healing there and all kinds of things, martial arts training, Aikido training, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training, a lot of different things that I did during that time in Colorado. And I met so many more than several amazing people and amazing soulmates and amazing connections with people. And all of that came from a very broken place, you know. And when I moved and I followed those prayers and I followed those intentions and so on and so forth, it changed my life, and it changed what was going on in my body. So when you think about your life, I'll conclude here briefly. When you think about your life and you think about your diseasements or your struggles or this or that, just recognize and realize they're all part of one problem. Okay? It's not like, oh, I have like a health problem, and then I have a financial problem, and then I have a problem in my foot, and then I have a problem with my sister, and I have... If you realize that they're all part of one problem, and without blaming or judging yourself in any way, shape, or form, we don't need any more of that. Is there a way for you to find greater inner peace within yourself? Is there a way for you to learn to calm down? Is there a way for you to begin to intend, pray, ask, journal write, speak out loud to the sky, and begin to have a communion with life? Is it possible to do that? And is it possible that if you were to get clear, very important, right? Inner peace and clarity go together. If I were to get clear, is it possible that I could change my life? It's very possible. Now, there are many things typically that we have to do to change our life. In other words, there's that old saying that doing the same thing over and over again is like the definition of insanity, like thinking that something's going to change, but you keep doing the same habit, the same thing over and over and over again. You're going to need some new habits. You're going to need, in practicing those new habits and in doing those new habits, like a Qigong exercise class, for example, or a workshop or something, you're going to meet new people. those new people help you continue to develop those habits. The habits become stronger. And if you're like me in any way, shape, or form, I mean, I went on to get black belts in different martial arts. I went on to become a medical Qigong Master. I went on to get a psychology degree. I went on to get an emergency medical technician training certificate, state of Connecticut. Went on to study 4 years of molecular cellular biology. All of that took self-discipline, self-motivation, self-control. And it all begins, for me anyway, in terms of how I would teach you, it all begins with some type of seated meditation practice, standing tree meditation practice, going for a run, riding your bicycle, going to the forest and clearing your head, going and hiring a mentor and investing in yourself, investing in a class, investing in yourself and becoming a Qigong instructor and certified, or becoming a medical Qigong practitioner if you want to follow in my footsteps, because those are definitely footsteps I've left behind in the snow, okay, and I'm still living them. No one told me when I was growing up, hey, David, when you grow up, you can be a medical Qigong master. No one around me knew that anything like this even existed. It evolved. I became it. As I stepped into Qigong and traditional Chinese medicine, and as I stepped into martial art, and then I started to step into the Eastern philosophy. Then I started to study the Western psychology. And pretty soon, bells and whistles are going off, and I'm meeting people, and my destiny is evolving. There's a saying I'm going to leave you with. The saying, you've probably heard it before, spoken generally like this: God helps those who help themselves. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but that's like an example of an idea that spirit, life, existence, flow, Tao, source, God helps those who help themselves, who get focused. Notice where the dot sits between the eyes. This is the point of focus. When we practice Qigong, we practice pulling the bow and we focus. When we practice meditation, we focus. When we practice martial art and we punch or something, we focus. Or we spear hand, we focus. Okay? Or we karate chop, we focus. When we practice Qigong, we get focused. Meanwhile, the wind is blowing on us. We're shaking. It may not be an outside wind. It may be, and it usually is, an inside wind of emotion and fear or stress, whatever's going on. But you've got to keep moving in your life. Your life is a story, just like any hero, any character in any book, in any movie. Here's the secret, guys. You have to keep moving. One of my favorite sayings to myself is, just passing through. I'm just passing through. I'm not going to stay here. I'm not going to stay there. I'm passing through. And as I'm passing through, I'm evolving the story of my life. And what does that look like? What does that mean? It means evolution. It means becoming greater than I was yesterday. That doesn't happen every day. That doesn't happen every month, and it doesn't happen every year. But it happens over chunks of years. Who has time for that? Well, here's the thing. If you're 40, you might be here when you're 60. If you're 60, you might be here when you're 80. And if you're 80, you might be here when you're 100. So, what do you want your life to look like? And lastly, when you leave that body of yours, do you want to go and have dreams like the Scrooge, where you cheated everybody and then you're having nightmares? Or would you rather leave in a very profound inner peace where you know you've forgiven other people, and hopefully at least some of them have forgiven you, and you've blessed people, and hopefully some people have blessed you? That's a much better place to live here and now. And if you're going to leave, when you leave, that's a much better place to leave this place. Have a wonderful moment, a wonderful day. If you listened to this whole thing, hopefully good for you and simultaneously good for me. Thank you for spreading the message. Have a fantastic moment. And come practice with me sometime.